So one of the biggest problems that I've seen is we're not making connection. We're not understanding what is actually the problem that we need to address that this audience is dealing with. So the more insight you have to the problem, the more laser focused you are on the problem, and the more your exercises and your information is going to solve that problem, then the better the course, the more transformational, and the more it will stay with the students. Because if you can transform them in the class, if you can solve the problem in the class, then when they leave, the problem's solved. And it's not even a question of what did you remember from the class, but this is what I've become. I don't have this problem anymore. Now when I pray or now when I chant, it's like this. It's become a new way of being for me. That's what I got from the class. You've changed my attitude. You've changed the way I've understood something. You've changed the way I did something. You made me aware of the problem. I didn't even really understand this was the problem. So like sometimes we have to help our students understand what the conditioning is and the problem is. They don't really understand. Just make sure these points are clear. I'm sure they are because you're teachers and you could probably be teaching me so many things, and I feel a little like embarrassed to teach you. But I just want to share my own realizations. In teaching a course on marriage, I realized there was a Paribhasa Sutra in marriage. There was like an essence. And so in whatever you're teaching, you always want to look for that. What is that one essence that everything I'm going to teach evolves around? That it's all going to come back to that. And so I'm just elaborating on this one point because I know if my students get this one point, boom, it hits the conditioning. Or this one point explodes the ignorance. It's that this one point dissolves the anartha. It's that one thing, and it might be in each lesson or it might be overall for the entire course. So as I was teaching marriage workshops everywhere, relationship workshops everywhere, one of the things I realized that was super important that many couples were doing wrong was a lot of times they would argue about who's right, who's wrong about this or that. So I realized that the Paribhasa Sutra of marriage was whatever you do should enhance the relationship. And if it's not going to enhance the relationship, why do it? But in normal dealings, what is the value of arguing over something if the only result is that it disturbs your relationship and it doesn't matter that much? So that became the Paribhasa Sutra. And where I got this from was Prabhupada was asked a question by a man who was living with a family that was eating meat. It was his wife and kids. He had just become a devotee. He said, what should I do? And Prabhupada said, well, do whatever is favorable and avoid whatever is not favorable. And so I thought, well, that's the same thing. Do in marriage whatever favorable for the relationship and avoid what's not favorable. And there's your Paribhasa Sutra. Everything you teach just edifies that, expands upon it. Then it's really easy for the students to imbibe what you taught because in the course themselves, in the course itself, everything you taught is about this one point and they got it. And if they get this one point, then that's it. They've made it. They've transformed in the classroom.